In my bread. Hi, Jen. We're so happy to have you with us. We're gonna bring you up in about 15 minutes to hear from you. So we're super excited. At least Marie and I are. Um, hey everybody. My favorite topic, gifting today. So we're gonna have a few more minutes while people join in. Is there anybody new that wants to introduce themselves? Everybody else, if you want to just be putting where you're coming in from for new people to know where everyone's from. And anybody new or anybody have anything exciting to share that's happening locally that you've engaged with about giving or anything in your local peace economy? Please be putting where you're coming in from. CODEPINK, Missouri. Y'all are rocking it, CODEPINK, Missouri. Oh, Jen, that's why you couldn't join, because you're in Austin. Okay, cool. I was like, it's awfully early in the morning in Rome.
No. Thank goodness.
And we've got Santa Fe and Sacramento. Hey, Tim and Emily. I mean, Kat, you want to tell us what's happening in Missouri? You all are rocking the local. Anything you want to share with the group about successes in Missouri?
Well, we just launched our Instagram page last night. So,
Woohoo.
um, and our op-ed is getting close to being ready to get, uh, well, we're going to submit it for publication, and hope for the best. But they're about to finish that up, which we're trying to get everybody educated in the St. Louis area about the ICL factory that they want to put in there, which is I don't know if everybody knows, the Israeli chemical. I don't know what the L stands for. Labs, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, Chem
Uh,
Lab.
so they manufacture white phosphorus there, and they're also putting it in, saying that they're going to make lithium batteries there, which is still risky. And they're putting it right on the river. Like, they initially got it approved to go in a different area in St. Louis, and then they decided to move it to a blacker, poorer area of St. Louis, uh, because they didn't want it in their backyard. And so a lot of people in the area don't know about this. So we're hoping the op-ed is help get the word out, get them to contact their aldermen, and tell them they don't want it there.
Good work. Excellent work. I mean, that covers so many bases and you're able to teach a lot. So that's amazing. Fantastic work. And I'll remind Melissa, IPS has Institute for Policy Studies has a way to get op-eds in locally. So I'll remind Melissa to do that. Sweet. All right. Anyone new that wants to share, say hi, say everybody should say where they're from in the chat. Anybody new that wants to share where they're from and why they're here so we can make sure to address needs? Anybody else that has a need for this week beyond learning about gifting, let us know in the chat so we can make sure to address your needs also. Rena, are you new? Maybe not. Okay. So I want to just welcome you. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to pass it back to Marie.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start us off with a reading from Robin Wall Kimmerer's new book, which is called The Serviceberry. I don't know if you can see it because of the way the funky Let me see there. Well, that's what the cover looks like.
Mm.
And it's a small book, but the subtitle is Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. And Robin Wall Kimmerer, she writes, if you haven't read her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, I highly recommend it. She writes from an Indigenous perspective. And this is a beautiful book about reciprocity in the natural world. And I thought that this might be a really good place for us to start the evening. She writes, there are protocols in many indigenous cultures for individual taking from the land. These ancient guidelines, referred to as the honorable harvest, constrain rampant consumption to ensure that the dish remains full. I've been told that these ethics themselves are the result of timeless treaties between the human people and the deer people, the bear people, the fish people, and the plant people, in which our more than human relatives agree to share the gift of their lives to sustain the lives of humans. In return, the human people agree to protocols of restraint, respect, and reciprocity. I suspect that these ethics also arose from making mistakes and suffering the ecological consequences. I wonder if we will learn again. If we think of the earth as a big warehouse of commodities as mere objects, we claim a kind of privilege to exploit what we believe we own. In that property mindset, how we consume doesn't really matter because it's just stuff and stuff all belongs to us. There's no moral constraint on consumption. And so we find ourselves in a time of ecological and spiritual depletion. But in the worldview of land as gift, where the givers are someone's, not some things, consumers confront a moral dilemma. We humans must consume since we are animals to whom the gift of photosynthesis was not given, but our patterns of gross overconsumption have brought us to the brink of disaster. What would it be like to consume with the full awareness that we are the recipients of earthly gifts, which we have not earned? To consume with humility. We are called to harvest honorably with restraint, respect, reverence, and reciprocity. The guidelines of the honorable harvest are not usually written down. They are reinforced in small acts of daily life and in story. But if I were to list them, they would look something like this. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you so that you can take care of them in turn. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for a life. Ask permission before taking and abide by the answer. Never take the first one and never take the last one. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half and leave some for others. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. And sustain the ones who sustain you and the earth, and it will last forever. So that's the reading from Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, which I take inspiration from. So um, the focus of this meeting is going to be on Genevieve Vaughan's time here, but I wanted to do a little thought experiment with everybody at first. And it's something that when I was first introduced to the idea of gifting and reciprocity, it was I was asked to actually do this same thought experiment. And so, if you will, imagine two scenarios and feel the scenario in your body. And if you would, after I finish this sort of visualization exercise, if you have something that feels like you might want to talk about it, we're going to ask people to give an account of what they experience. But so the first scenario is you're going to Target and or another big box store near where you live, and you go in and you're looking for something for your kitchen, say like a plate or you've broken a dinner plate and you want to replace it. And you go in, you go downstairs to where the kitchenwares are. It's kind of rushed. People are walking around, looking around in the aisles. You find something that will do. You pick it up, you go upstairs, you put it on the conveyor belt, and people are standing in line. The person at the register is not making eye contact. You try to talk to them, they're not really eager to talk to you, and in turn, you kind of give up. You pay with your credit card, they put it in a bag, and you walk out of the store. So that is how pretty much the majority of what we purchase is purchased if you go to the store at all. If you go to the store where there's more human contact, a lot of stuff is done online now. But now imagine this. You break a plate at a dinner party, and a friend of yours who's at the dinner party sees that you break the plate and says, "Oh, I make pottery. I'll make you a dinner plate to replace the one that you have." And 2 weeks later, they knock on your door and they hand you, it's not a perfect fit, but it is a beautiful plate that you can put into your serviceware. And you feel instantly so grateful for the fact that they would have taken the time to do this or to have thought about you in that way. And um, and you say thanks, and they're like, "Oh, nothing." But then, days later, you're thinking like, I really want to reciprocate somehow. I want to give back to them in some way. And you begin thinking about that their birthday's coming up and that you might want to do something special for them in return. A year from then, somebody asks you about the fact that that plate looks different from the other plates, and you have a story that you can tell. And it's a story about friendship and connection and how we are bound together in our communities by these small acts of gifting and reciprocity and feelings of gratitude that lead us to then in turn give to other people. And to me, I haven't talked to Jody about this or thought about it, but the peace economy really is represented in those moments that the exchange is brought back home to story and to feelings of gratitude and indebtedness, because that is actually what binds people together into community, is not co-consuming together, but co-creating together. And so those are the two thought experiments. And if you have uh, you know, if they make you feel a certain way, would you like raise your hand or unmute yourself and talk about a little bit about what you feel about those?
Hmm.
Somebody want to raise their hand?
I can.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, shall
Well,
I?
Segue right
well,
in.
first, first, I want to introduce you because we're like
Uh,
super tickled that you're with us today, Jen. So,
Mm,
just so everybody listening to you now knows who you are. Well, first of all, Marie and I met at Jen's conference on the gift economy in Rome many years ago. I can't even
yeah.
remember how many.
Yep.
So let's just start there. But
2015, 10 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
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 So Jen is also, CodePink wouldn't exist without Jen. And I've the local peace economy work has really arisen out of Jen's work and my learning from her. So just want to say this is the shoulders we stand on. Jen lives in Rome, an American who lives in Rome, expatriate, a peace activist, a feminist, a philanthropist. And her ideas and work have been super influential in the intellectual movements around the gift economy and matriarchal studies. And I just want to say the global women's movement owes a huge amount to Jen in its development and its robustness. So many of us stand on Jen's shoulders, or rise from her heart is better way to say it. So Jen, welcome.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you so much. I didn't expect to have that accolade, but thanks so much. I just wanted to reply to the thought experiment with an idea that, I mean, it's not really an idea, an experience that I heard of in Rome, where the women that were working in the stores, some particular popular stores, were went on strike because they were being forced to smile at the clients. And they didn't want to have to be forced to do that, to create a relationship with the clients. So it was really an example of what you're talking about how the whole exchange economy, the whole capitalist economy alienates people from each other. And the businesses want to exploit the relationship that people build by smiling and being nice to each other between the client and the clerk. So it's kind of a turnaround, but that's what I remembered when you said that.
Yeah, that's powerful because it's also enforcing a non-relationship into a pretend.
Yeah. Yeah.
The authenticity is removed. Kat.
So, a couple things like the going into the store. First of all, I was a little confused because I've never been in a Target that I had to go upstairs or downstairs. So we've only been one level. So I was like trying to picture that. And because ours is only one level. But um, that's so impersonable, like, and sterile, and like it reinforces that we're just here to take your money mindset that is capitalism that I hate. That's so we just gotta exploit stuff. We just take it. Like the reading you were reading, it's just a relationship of ownership and doing what we want with it. And then like it means so much more to me if somebody made me something and gave it to me. Like because well their energy went into it, and that means a lot. And then it's a unique something that I wouldn't be able to get somewhere else. And even if like that's like a standard piece that they made, and they sell, like each one is still unique, like because of the way they're made. So it it needs a lot more, I would think. And then I think it would make me feel like wanting to give back too. Yeah, I think uh and that would really I would want to make something back. I think.
Yay, the flow. Yeah, the circle. Yeah, I think about, back 100 years ago, we were seen as what we made, and now we're seen as what we consume, which is, really a crazy notion. Dominic.
Well, making peace is something very important to me. And so, what I do, and especially today, I noticed I was at the store, Trader Joe's, to tell you, and I engage with everyone. Oh, you pick some beautiful flowers, or the little guy with kind of, I don't know what he's a little, he's at the register and he packs, and to recognize him. And I did that with so many people, but I realized I got exhausted. I was already exhausted, but it's a wonderful way to connect with people. And I think, I feel sorry for these Italian women that Genevieve talked about, because as human beings, that's what we're doing, connecting, and smiling and saying a kind word is, just the minimum. I overdid it today because on top of another couple of other big peace projects I'm involved with. But anyway, I wanted to share that because that's a practice we can all do, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you. Yeah, especially at this time when everyone's really kind of suffering from the alienation and the confusion. Hey, Macy.
Hi, good to see you. Um, Well, I just got home from mailing packages to my friends, and I was thinking on the way back about the million different puzzle pieces I had to put together to get these packages because I have a friend who maybe I've made because I bought something from her at a market, who has exactly what this other friend would need, or I need a book that another friend has already read and recommended to put in the box. And none of it involved shopping. Like all of it involved people I know and something I know they have and that I can say, do you have this? And on the ride back, I was just thinking that circumventing the economy is quite a journey. Yes. And before I found peace economy, that's what I used to call it, because I was reflecting that nothing in that box just came from a straight store and how whole that feels.
Mm.
And it also takes a lot of time and is therefore more purposeful. And I just thought it was such an appropriate thing to come back to this topic and the stories to consider, because that's how I've lived my life and for a long time. And I corrected myself on the way back. I was like, I'm not circumventing the economy. I'm cultivating the peace economy now. Yeah. And like last night, I went over to familiarize myself with another friend's new dog. And I'm going to watch this dog while she's out of town. And I'd said to the guy, I need to fix the struts on my car or something. It's awful. I have the parts. And he's like, well, I'll help you with your car. He's like, you can watch your dogs, I'm happy to trade and I'll fix your car. And that's great. And it was perfect because somebody had asked me, well, how much is it going to cost to fix your car? And I said, it's not going to cost me anything to fix my car. And it's not, because this is how everything works in the world that I have built.
Mm.
And nobody's ever going to have to worry about anything that I can provide either, as long as they know that they can ask me and then I can do it. So I love this exchange. My favorite peace economy point is transactional to relational, because there's so much that's transactional in our lives.
Yeah.
And the question, what can I do for the person making my coffee? So anyway, thank you very much for everything so far. And it warms.
When you were talking, I was feeling something that I think we need to articulate more, and that's like the meaning in time, like the difference between just wasting time and filling it with connective tissue. Like I felt that when you were sharing, I just felt like the robustness of, when you say all the time it took, but that time felt robust and life-filled instead of thin and twingy. Like if we think about the time we spend worrying about the chaos that gets really tinny and thin and stringy, I just felt like the fullness and the richness and the heartfulness of that time that I'd never really reflected on before. So thank you for that. Mary.
Hi, thank you. I was thinking today about how I'm doing a lot of information sharing. And I was thinking that, connecting people to this or that, action that's going to happen, or piece of information about an article that they're writing, and how it does take a lot of time. And yet it is like you're weaving things together. You're helping to create something, even if it's not with a physical object. And it's all for the same purpose. What I found interesting about the Robin Wall Kimmerer quotation was at the very end, talking about a year later, you know, kind of reflecting, there's a kind of a feeling, a subtle a feeling that comes with that with that reciprocity. And so that struck me about the quote. So thank you for everything.
Thanks, Mary. I think you're speaking to the wholeness that Macy mentioned, that feeling of wholeness that is denied us when we're in the war economy. So given this conversation, I think one of our next gatherings, we should talk about time and work, because I think we use them and they use us, and figuring out how to get on the use, our use side instead of the being used by side of both. So we'll save that for later. But now I want to turn it over to Jen. As I said earlier, I think a few of you have joined. Just, this is the wise elder of this work that this work stands on. And Jen, if you could just share with our community, about the gifting economy and how you came to it, and because it's going to be new for them. So thank you so much. A 101.
Thank you, Jody, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I'm loving this session that you all are having. When I was young, I went to college, and then I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, and I ended up marrying an Italian philosophy professor and moved to Italy. And the beginning, when it was a time of, it was like it was in the 60s, and I'm 85 now, so I am an elder. Anyway, so one of the first things that happened was that he was invited to be part of a journal that was going to apply Marx's analysis of the commodity and money to language, and to see if language is based on exchange, as it seemed it might be. And I thought this idea was fascinating, and I just, thought about it a whole lot. And then as time went on, and he wrote some books about it and stuff, and then as time went on, and I had my children, my 3 daughters, I realized that they began to talk when they were little, that with me, and they didn't understand exchange at all. They didn't know what money was. The market didn't have anything to do with them until they began to be like 3 or 4 years old. And so I realized that it couldn't be exchange that language was based on. And if anything, it would be that exchange was based on language in some way. So as time went on after that, then I became a feminist, and I realized that women were not being seen in the world, and that mothering was not looked at as an important part of society. And time went on some more, and many other things happened in my life, and I began to write about the kind of economy that Native people have, because Native people did not have markets, and yet they could talk. So there was not, that was pretty obvious that it was that language and other things were not being based on the market. And so that we had to have something prior to the market, a structure, a way of interacting that came before the market, and that then the market was a variation on. And that was giving and receiving, unilateral giving and receiving, because mothers give to babies unilaterally. They don't expect something back in exchange. And babies can't give them anything back in exchange until they're much, much older. And so children live within this model of unilaterally giving and receiving. And that, I believe, is the underlying structure of humanity. And that what we are really is not Homo sapiens, because we don't know this. We certainly don't know everything. And we don't know that we don't know, as we're not Homo sapiens sapiens. So what we really are is Homo donans, the giving being, or the giving and receiving being. And that is our true nature. And then when we are begin to grow up, like when we're 3 or 4 or 5, we learn quid pro quo, which is I'm only going to give you this if you give me that. And there's an exchange that is forces the one that needs something to give something in order to get it. And that alters the human relation, because the unilateral giving and receiving creates a communication, a relation of care and of gratitude on the part of the receiver, and of, well, what would we say, happiness on the part of the giver that the receiver has received. So there's a kind of a transmission, and there's a trajectory from the giver to the receiver, and the receiver receives, and then if the receiver wants to give again, they can. It's not, but there's not a constraint in between the giver and the receiver. And that is what I call the maternal economy. And I think it is the basic structure of all of our lives, our language, our economy is based on that, because it's actually what it is. Our exchange economy is a contradiction of the unilateral way, turning it into a bilateral and constrained way, where the people that do the exchange and the capitalism and the whole huge market is based on taking gifts, taking free work, taking surplus labor, as Marx called it, and taking the gifts of nature. So all of the capital is really a conglomerate of gifts that have been given, and like kind of sucked up from the many towards the few into capital, and then reinvested in order to make more and more and more. And what we need to do to counter this terrible situation that capitalism and patriarchy have brought us into is to go back to the maternal gift economy and create relations with each other in that way, and propose it as a general way for organizing society instead of the way that capitalism organizes it. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of steps. It's going to take people revising their idea of who we are as humans. We're a maternal species because we all learn from that model, that original model, even if men are told that they are not maternal. And so they have to be in another category and do other things. So that are kind of derived from giving, like hitting is kind of like a gift that you give, but it's given to hurt instead of given to nurture. So this is a different paradigm that we can base a social change on, instead of continuing with the paradigm of exchange in the market. And well, I guess I'll leave it at that for now. I do want to say that reciprocity is giving forward, giving on, giving, sometimes giving back, but giving again and again. And it's not necessarily exchange. It's not quid pro quo. So it has a different kind of a human relation connected with it. There we are.
Thanks, Jen. Well, there we are. That's what we're talking about today. And I think, it echoes what we've heard read by Marie from Robin. And I really want everybody to take a breath and think about what Jen just said. Because, you know, one of the ways we can know this isn't healthy or human is to see the, not end result, because we have no idea where it's going, but to see the result of the war economy, of the separating self from, separating humanity from the giving economy, from the matriarchal economy, is the psychosis of Trump and Musk and Bibi Netanyahu. And so in that accumulation of power and money, it creates a an entity that is in contradiction to life. So I think, you know, when we look and we get really frustrated by what we're seeing and we feel that just horror and all we're feeling, I just like reminder that we are also an organism that is part of the organism, and that by shutting, you know, by stepping away from the war economy, and like Macy was saying, it's like instead of like what we're doing is just what we're doing in contradiction to, is what, how she used to say it, it's in building something else. And so in that intention that we are in, it's like every act that we take that is in the peace economy, it is an act of building a future, because the acts of the destructiveness of, you know, capitalism and the way we're in stage, and it's like humans weren't meant to accumulate at this level of inequality. It creates a distortion in the psyche that we're watching at a level of violence that is unthinkable. Like our psyches can't even hold it. So, you know, where Jen's truth is found in the mother, in the, you know, in that reciprocal giving of life, we can also see the distortion. And that, I hope, helps us in the moments where that distortion is so hard to witness, to like take us back to then giving life, time, our energy, our work, to cultivating the peace economy, which is the future. And it just gets so clear. Like when I hear Jen talk and I look at the world, it is just so clear for me. And I think, you know, when I first heard Jen talking about it, is really what I want to say is the soil that this work came out of, because it was just like so obvious. Like, oh, I can't end war until I end the war economy, because war serves this violent patriarchy. And also just want to say, witnessing, you know, AI, and just, you know, everyone out there should know it is not intelligent. It is a regurgitation of this violent patriarchal exchange conversation that is really going to continue to strangle us. So please stay far away from that mode of operandi. Marie, back to you.
Yeah, so I wanted to send people to their breakout groups, and it's a pretty simple topic. So in your small groups, find one thing that you have in some abundance that you might be willing to give away to somebody in your local community, and discuss with your group about what, you know, friends or community organizations, or who in your world, a relative, somebody who might be a good recipient for that, and just any feelings you have around the idea of giving in that way, without an expectation of without an expectation that it will be returned. And so I'm gonna put that in the chat. Um, and I will send you to your breakouts for 15 minutes, and then we will come back at 5 till the hour, and we'll do a harvest or two, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to pause the recording now, and then I'll send you to breakouts. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for taking that time to be together, and we would love to hear about anything you might have talked about in your breakouts that stood out, or something that brought some emotions to you. You know, feel free to unmute yourself and talk, or raise your hand. I'd be happy to hear from you.
Well, Dominique shared something really beautiful in our group that I hadn't thought about. It. She talked about writing love letters to, like, I hope I describe it right, beautiful moments and like things in nature that she sees, just that made her day better, which I really liked doing that. I feel like that's putting more love out into the world.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I have there's a local mom here who she and her children make these ceramic seed pods that are unfired, and they make them over the winter, all winter long. And then the spring is filled with walking around and various parts of nature that they feel are beautiful and that have given them joy. They plant these seed pods next to them. And this is how, part of the way that she is teaching her children about this kind of gifting and loving the planet and being in relationship with the planet. Um, and I think writing love letters, I mean, people underestimate, they think of things like, what things do I have? Like, oh, I have an old bike in my shed I could give away, and that's perfectly great. But also just like your time and your attention is such an incredible gift, especially for people who chronically feel unseen, or for the more than human world, your attention to the more than human world. I firmly believe that the more than human is asking for our attention and wanting our attention, and that it's a gift to return our attention to trees and plants and to the animals around us, and um, that's a form of gift as well. Does anybody else have anything?
Bria,
Yes, hi Tim.
I can't find the hand on this, but in our group, we shared about caring for relatives and how the need is we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves as
Yeah,
well. And sometimes we forget that and we become kind of depressed because it takes so much energy that time. I cared for my mother who had dementia for a lot of years, and that takes a lot of energy, and you don't even know that you're slipping into depression a little bit, and the need to take care of oneself as well. That's why I
yeah,
started gardening, actually.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, the caregiving, it does eat away at you. And it also brings up, because of the way that the war economy and the commodification, that that we feel feelings of intense guilt when we aren't like earning money or are taking time for ourselves, though, which is taking away from like what the energy you're putting into things. And I think that we can feel that guilt even in the care economy, right? If we're not doing caring all the time, 24/7, you can feel guilt. But I really feel like guilt around exchange and guilt around gifting is really sort of like the war economy overlaid on top of what our important giving instincts are. These primal instincts that Genevieve was talking about, these original ways of looking at the world, that the guilt is something that is placed on top of us. My husband was severely injured in a motorcycle accident about 10 years ago, and I had little kids, and I had to care for him for months and months and months as he recovered. And of course, he didn't have Alzheimer's, and that wasn't he was going to recover eventually, but it does take its toll. It really does take its toll um, when you have to do that repetitively and for so long. So, anyone else? Well, while people are thinking, I put a link to the next meeting that we're having, which is on the concept of dehumanization, and we're seeing some of that going on around us today in the news, and And so we've got the event up on the website. And so if you'd RSVP for it, if you would like to attend or just get the recording, that's the way the recordings are distributed, is through the RSVP system. So if you ever know that you can't attend, but you want to hear what the topic or want to hear the conversation, just RSVP anyway. You're not taking up space. The amount of RSVPs is unlimited for these meetings. So and then that way we can be sure to get the recording to you. But even if you forget to RSVP, the recordings are always up on the website, on the YouTube. I shouldn't say on our website, on YouTube. By the next, like within 24 to 36 hours, they're up on YouTube in the CodePink section of YouTube. And so you would be able to find them there even if you aren't RSVP'd. And of course, if you ever have questions, you can just write me. I'm Marie Goodwin, and I'm marie@codepink.org. So thanks all of you.
Marie,
Go ahead.
Genevieve
Yeah.
has her hand up.
Oh, she did. I can't see it. Genevieve, speak.
She's waving it.
Go ahead. Just unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yeah, what I was going to say is that guilt is like you're preparing to pay back. That's what's it's part of exchange. You're feeling like you ought to exchange something, pay back for a fault that you've committed. And so that is in the exchange mode. And I think that it's the difficulty of caring for people in our society is that we're isolated from each other because of the whole economy, the exchange economy, the capitalism. So in another kind of context, it wouldn't be like that. And we would have help. Other people would want to give to us as well. And so we wouldn't have to be taking care of ourselves because we'd have a community around us that would help with our caregiving and with us. And so we always have to realize how odd and alien our own society is, because it is not based on giving directly. It takes gifts.
Yeah, I can remember when I was a little kid. I mean, it had to be under 4 because we moved from this house when we were 4. And I asked my mother, it's one of my first memories, is like, I don't understand, why don't people just give what they have to give, and then they take what they need, and then nobody would need money or checks. I was asking specifically about writing checks, and my mom just brushed it away as like, well, that's stupid, right? You know, but the reality is that that is our inherent nature, is to really work in a world that way. And
Yeah.
the overlay of these emotions and the shoulds over us is something that comes later. And trying to unpack that is so difficult. And we are all like so entrenched in this much bigger market economy, um, and it's really difficult to unpack, I have to say. Allison,
Yeah.
you had your hand up. You want to?
Thank you. And I love that story. Bless you as a child for seeing straight through it all. And yeah, we're designing that way towards that. My only thing I'm raising my hand about is just a quick logistical thing. And I'm curious whether when we register, can the Zoom link be sent? Does it get sent automatically? Can it be saved in our Google Calendar, or that's just not possible?
You can save the event in your Google Calendar, but it doesn't save the Zoom link, and we do that for security reasons.
Okay.
As you can imagine, we have,
Yes.
like, yes,
Yes. Okay.
trolls. So we ask people to RSVP, and then we send out the Zoom link on exactly an hour
An
before the
hour
meeting
before.
starts. Yeah,
Thank you. Okay.
sure.
I have it. All right. Thanks.
All right. Genevieve, go ahead.
Yes, and just another thing is I put in the chat, we have a series of Zooms. Every 2 weeks, we do a Zoom on the maternal gift economy movement.org, and I put that in there. And there's also another website, gift-economy.com, if anybody wants to go to see either of those or do any of that. And you're all invited to come.
That's great. And I'm gonna, just so that people don't feel frantic about getting all of these resources, I will send them out in the email that goes out tomorrow.
Great.
They'll everything will be put in, and yeah, I want to make sure that you can follow Genevieve's work specifically because it's so vast. I mean, you go online and there's so many like webinars with her speaking and books and like academic articles. There's like it's amazing, it's really quite impressive. So
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, we got just a little taste of it in Rome, but just a little taste, but it was great. And I'm an academic, right? So I come from an academic background, so I kind of
Wonderful.
I
Yeah.
jive on that. So appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the work that CODEPINK does, and this work on the peace economy is fabulous. So
I
you
feel grateful to be a part of it too. I'm pretty new. I started in November, but yeah. Thank you everybody for coming. We're over time and I want to respect your time. But we appreciate you very much and we hope you'll come to our next meeting in 2 weeks exactly. All right. Good night, everyone.
thank you. Bye.